here. All right. Additionally, we partner with some of the best. So on the right-hand side here, you can see some of the folks that we partner with, organizations that we've worked together collaboratively to identify opportunities to help solve problems for our clients and the challenges they have in the space of enterprise asset management. And it's really important to have good partners in this space as we work collaboratively to develop solutions in the areas of asset management. So our team today for the discussion is myself. I'm John Gould, the Director of Enterprise Asset Management Services. I've been with JFC Associates for 7.5 years now. Prior to that, I was the Director of Facilities at Boston College, working in the facility space for over 20 years myself. John will be introducing him here shortly. And just kind of go over our agenda for today. We do some quick introductions here and talk about how we got started in this space, journey along the way that we've had, focus on innovation and things that we've done, solutions we've provided. Talk a little bit about lessons learned and shared with our clients, some activity and results, things that we've done along the way. And just as important about the past 20 is looking forward to the next 20. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce John Connell, our President and CEO. John, if you want to go ahead and get started here.
Sure. Thanks, John. Good morning, everyone. I wanted to start by providing my background, which led me to JFC and Maximo. I wanted to just mention this because I think it will give you a good understanding of why JFC and how we manage our business and do our work with our clients. I have close to 45 years in maintenance, repair, and operations. I started early in high school where I worked for a commercial HVAC and plumbing firm. At the same time, my hobbies included boating and fishing. My dad was an electronic technician who worked for a couple oceanographic firms, including Woods Hole Oceanographic and United States Geological Survey. After high school, I attended Calhoun Engineering School. I specialized in marine engineering. At Calhoun Engineering School, I got certified as a welder, certified as a firefighter. I attended Navy firefighting academies. At the same time, I also got certified as a lifeguard. Upon graduating from Calhoun Engineering School, I received a third engineer license for steam and motor unlimited horsepower that allowed me to work as an officer on a U.S. flagship of any size. At the same time, I got a commission, direct commission as an officer in the United States Navy, where I served for close to 28 years, and I traveled the world as an engineering logistic officer, and I worked aboard ships of many different types, and I also worked in offices, including Maximo. I worked in Maximo for the Navy Facility Command for the San Diego Public Works Center on the base there. After Calhoun Engineering School, I got my first job as a facility mechanic at Woods Hole Oceanographic. I worked at the mechanic for about a year in facility, maintaining some of their facilities in a campus-like atmosphere. It was predominantly a higher education facility that had liaisons with MIT, Harvard University, and United States Navy, and other scientific laboratories and organizations around the world. I moved from the facilities to on board ship as an engineering officer. I started as a third engineer working on the research vessel Atlantis II. We were a submarine tender. We carried the submarine owned and operated by the United States Navy. And I worked aboard that ship for about 5 years, moved up the ladder and acquired my chief engineer's license. But while I was on board the ship, we were tasked with the Navy and the scientific organizations to go out and explore and find the Titanic. So that was a memorable part of my time at Oceanographic that many of you guys know because it was a historic event finding that ship. So just wanted to mention that. Next slide, John. So I stayed at HUI, Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute, for about 5 years. I ended up getting married, getting more of a shoreside job, but at the same time, I still was in the Navy, and I traveled around the world as a Navy officer. I took a position at the Steamship Authority as chief engineer, where I worked on all the vessels within the fleet, from passenger vessels to passenger freight vessels. And while I was at the Steamship Authority, I was selected to be on the team to review a bunch of RFPs for asset management systems. I ended up doing majority of the work from the selection point of view. I developed white paper and specifically chose Maximo out of half a dozen or so proposals. But one of the reasons why I chose Maximo is because it seemed to be a leading edge technology in terms of one of the first companies to have a client server type of CMMS at the time. They had a broad range of clients, not necessarily just in maritime or maritime support, but also facilities and fleet and things of that nature. So I basically took charge of the program, had the team select Maximo. We teamed up with PSDI, which is Project Software Development Incorporated. They were the originators of Maximo. But one of the aspects of the proposals that stood out to me is that PSDI teamed up with a company in Boston, that on that team in Boston, they had marine engineers, subject matter experts on their proposal. So that really made a difference from me especially, and basically the rest of the team at the steamship, from operations, accounting, lawyers were involved, IT, and then the fleet operations as well. We went with Maximo. We implemented Maximo aboard a fleet of the United States Coast Guard inspected vessels. We implemented in the maritime terminal ports of Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, Hyannis, and Woods Hole, along with the bus fleet, warehouses for stores and inventory, and also a maintenance facility in Fairhaven, Massachusetts. Did that. I worked as project manager. I ended up working as a Maximo administrator in IT for a couple of years. I upgraded Maximo from 3.02 to the bleeding edge technology of version 5. We were one of the first companies that went on the internet-based version of Maximo. So when I say bleeding, it was bleeding. We bled a little bit, but it was a really good learning opportunity for me to understand of what some of this new technology was based. While at the Steamship Authority, I continued working on my license. I had to continue training in terms of upgrading my license and also doing firefighting. And that's what led me into doing more work outside of the Steamship Authority. I met another engineer who worked for Horizon Lines in New Jersey that was implementing Maximo across the fleet. I ended up working getting a part-time assignment with Horizon Lines, traveling during the off season when I was laid off from the ferries, worked with Horizon Lines and traveled with them aboard their ships on both the East Coast and the West Coast, and traveled to Florida aboard the vessel while I was training them on Maximo. This really started my company. It was really like, this is an opportunity to really say, what do I want to do? What do I want to do with my life and career? And at the point, many, many years ago, I had already achieved really the highest level I could go in my career as chief engineer, other than jumping off the ships and taking a more management approach. I decided to be more of a hands-on and technical approach and continue on this Maximo journey that I've been on. So long story short was that part-time job ended up into a full-time job. I was a good career move for me. Next assignment was working with universities. I got a job with Brandeis University, which led me to many, many other colleges and universities. Then returned back to the maritime sector, where I helped Staten Island Ferries, Golden Gate Bridge, Ferry Division, and then we also worked at the United States Navy Facility Command down in Washington, D.C. Again, I did this all along while I was traveling in the Navy. Around the world, I was running my business. But about the same time, I was fortunate enough to get a contract with Boston College, and this is where I met John Gould. John Gould was our first employee for JFC. The reasoning is JFC was getting too busy, and Maximo was really getting too technical in terms of the broad reach of my expertise, and really what my core focus was dealing with end users and clients on the functional side and solving some of their problems. But I did have quite a bit of technical knowledge where I knew how to Maximo worked, and look forward to having John on board and grow the company. Since John has joined, the list has grown tremendously. Our strategy is still the same. I look to bring on the most qualified individuals from many diverse backgrounds. Slide 6, John. By having a diverse background in Maximo repair and operations and information technology, JFC now has a really good understanding of what keeps you up at night, whether you're an IT manager, safety officer, maintenance manager, operation manager. We understand that whether it's safety, reliability, your mission to maintain these critical assets from budgetary concerns, operation concerns, or capital expenditures, we understand, what keeps you up at night. We also understand that having the right resources is key to keep the lights on. And that's a term that we use out in the maritime industry, that when you're on watch and you're responsible for maintaining that ship in the engine room, you want to keep the red lights on. So the same type of emphasis on this 24/7 operation in order to keep those critical assets up and running, it goes right to my heart. We know that the day-to-day operations of all these items, in terms of risk, if you manage them correctly, you'll be able to rest better at night. Slide 7, John. One of the most distinguishing features of our company and our team is that we're not afraid to say what we don't know. However, we take pride in finding new ways to help our clients and help address the client's concerns in terms of what they need, what they have to do to keep their lights on and keep those assets up at night. So we typically can challenge the status quo of what we've always done this way, but we always say, well, why? So we look to say that we can help you with some of these processes. We typically try to look where we can align the technology with the process. In many examples that we've done over the years, we've been the first ones to do this. So as an example, we developed a weather site in Maximo. We did this to help Boston College track snow removal with Bing Maps. So we have a utility that we call Bing Maps. We integrated SMS messages with Maximo Communications for AirTrain Bombardier to help notify stakeholders in the organization critical information in a timely manner. We did that with Maximo SMS. we're currently working on helping a large facility management company track time with an integration to Maximo with a biometric time clock. And most importantly, and most recently, in what we see in the future, we now have an IoT platform called Connect, where we can manage thousands of IoT sensors while integrated to Maximo. Some examples include working on high-speed doors for companies that manage billions of dollars worth of food. We can track whether the freezer door is open and closed, how long it's open, whether temperature drops, things of that nature, to help reduce their utility bills. We're working with ferry organizations where we can track their high-speed, high-performance diesel engines on the ferries by monitoring engine parameters, pressures, temperatures, pressure drops, engine hours, things of that nature, to help trigger conditions in Maximo, and many countless other opportunities. So on the screen here, you see some of the other utilities we've made. Max Complete was a utility that we created for a company that did batch completion. I believe we worked with Boston College in this as well, where we had a barcode on the paperwork order. The barcode was scanned. It allowed Maximo to update the status immediately, updated the work order, so more of a timely manner of notification on the work order, whether work was done or not, and then at a later point, some of that later was entered into Maximo. So all these items are really items that have been provided based on the client's needs. It really wasn't JFC going to the client and saying, I think you need this, we want to sell you this because this is a good product, and really looking at it from our perspective rather than the client's perspective. We like to focus on the client's needs. And again, we challenge not only a team, but our clients to really say, do you need to do it this way? Why can't you do it better, faster, smarter? So next slide, John.
All right, I think this is my turn. I'm going to give you a breather here, John.
Thank you.
So I think one of the things, in having been with JFC for 7.5 years now, is the thing that really gets me charged up is the opportunity to share things that we've learned along the way with our clients, and understanding, there's opportunities across industries where something may be done a certain way in a rail industry that the facilities industry could stand to benefit, or vice versa. But really our focus organizationally has been on the three primary tenets. We talk about people, process, and then technology. A lot of times people focus on the technology side first. They really try to pick the platform before they fully understand the people that need to use it and the processes they have in place. And I think that's something where we've been successful as an organization, just to get people's alignment straight, where we need to start off with the people. Right. So really that's where we begin. We start with our end users. We understand their unique challenges because we've held similar roles in those organizations. We don't know how they do it specifically at the client site or the specific client, but we understand the business side. And that really helps us to craft the discussions when we perform gap analyses and look to understand what those processes are and where those alignments are with the people that are doing them. And many times what results is that there are changes to those processes. There's a better way to do it. There's a better way to support the people who are performing the work, and really get a good understanding where those two things meet, and to really identify that before we jump into how technology is going to solve problems. And really the focus there is just, trying to really increase understanding and alignment to where you are in your asset management journey. A lot of organizations very flippantly say, we want to do more preventative maintenance. We want to do predictive maintenance. We want to do ultrasonic testing. We want to do fluid oil analysis, all the types of things that are critical to asset reliability. But something as simple as knowing what assets you have, knowing what is an asset. Those are the things that, we help organizations work with to identify and say, Where are you on this pyramid of excellence, if you will? Where can we identify opportunities to get you to that next level and really align the process changes and the people that are performing the work to accommodate that? And then lastly, in that area is, focusing on technology as the enabler, not the solution, right? That's really something that's very important. A lot of organizations want mobility. They want planning and scheduling. They want the tools. The tools enable you to work smarter and faster and get more accomplished and be more efficient, but they're not necessarily the solution to the problem, right? So organizationally, we understand that there are things that need to be done, processes that need to be put in place, training, understanding that there are nuances to your business and the client's business that necessitate discussion about process. And really, that's where we have developed as an organization and worked really hard with our clients on enabling them, right? I talk about this a lot with customers and clients that I work with, is that my goal is really to become obsolete as a consultant. My goal is to enable you, to educate you, and to build upon those things that you need within your enterprise asset management system, and obsolete from the perspective of the functions that we're providing for services. We're always going to be there for our clients. Not to say I want to make myself completely obsolete from the space, but more so just to get you through the opportunities that are in front of us and get you thinking and moving forward. And really, these are the things that we talk about in terms of delivering results. So I'm going to pass it back over to John here.
Thanks, John, again. So again, we like to think that we deliver what we say to meet the expectations of our clients. Over the years, we take pride in this with our clients' needs and also with our partnerships with our vendors. They're really our most important to us, along with our team. We think we deliver the systems that provide pragmatic solutions to organizations' unique problems. Previous slides, I think you've seen some of that. We have a really good background of being on time, on budget in terms of performance, but we really like to think that whether on all our projects, we're committed from a partnership perspective. We recognize that many of the clients have different initiatives and priorities, and whether it's a small or large project, we're ready to work with them. But in many cases, it's like a marriage, and we kind of spell this out to all of our clients when we work with them, that whether they're having a good day or bad day, or JFC's having a good day or bad day, we want to make this work together and be flexible to meet the needs to be successful. We've had that success story over the last 20 years, and we believe we have the right team moving forward to continue this success. Next slide, John. So as you see in the picture here, this is our team. There's a couple of folks that aren't on here, but you can see that we range from people gray hair, no hair like me, to some young folks, but we have all diverse backgrounds. We literally have hundreds of combined years of Maximo expertise, but we also have expertise in business sectors that you folks work in, supporting trillions of dollars of worth of assets in, countless numbers of assets in locations where those assets derive. We've delivered a broad spectrum of results from some of the programs or tasks that you see here to support service management, operations management, asset management for clients, again, like you and partners that we work with. And we feel very good about moving forward for the next 20 years again. Majority of our clients are also certified in Maximo. We have reliability experts, and then we also have IT experts on our team with many, many years of expertise. Next slide, John. This is our value proposition. I'm not going to go through the bullet by bullet, but it's directly related to the clients, partners, and our team. We have knowledge and the desire to continue providing the level of service that we have been providing the last 20 years, and we look forward to providing the service that our past clients that we've been working with have been accustomed to and expect from JFC. We are an award-winning team. In 2019, we won the Best Overall Asset Performance Management Program. This was a global award by ReliabilityWeb.com. We recognize the award, but we still expect to work with our clients and our partners to continue to reach for new heights and new goals. And we want another award, whether it's this year or next year. We're not going to stand still and just say, oh, we won this award. We want to reach new heights, bring new innovative solutions to you folks, give our team the tools to achieve professional success on their side, and also at the same time learn and grow with the company. Next slide. So over the next 10 years, we're going to continue to what we do best by adapting, aligning, and partnering. We feel that those are some of the core things that we do best, where we learn, we listen, and we're innovative. We want to continue to grow the company, expanding our team, expand our client base, and learn about two new technologies to enable some of the needs that our clients have. Right now we're in an unprecedented time for this COVID pandemic, but I think this is a time to look at opportunities. I expect coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic, there's going to be considerable changes in terms of operations, and then that will be directly related to how you manage your assets and maintain those assets, whether it's remotely or on site. And we look forward to engaging with our customers to support the new technologies as a result of this pandemic. With that, I want to thank, next slide, John. With that, I want to thank everybody that's attending. I appreciate your time. I think John Gould might have a poll, ask you some questions, or not sure how that's going to work. John, why don't you jump in?
Yeah, so let's see here. We have some polls to start. So let's start here. So I'm going to start this poll. If you can, go into the screen there and check off your principal pain point currently. And then I'm going to have John talk a little bit about where there are opportunities. Maybe we've worked with customers on resolving issues, and what folks seem to think in terms of principal pain points that they're having currently. So we'll give this another couple of minutes here. Got 2 votes in so far, so we gotta break the tie here. There we go. Now we're moving.
Maybe we need to do mail-in voting, John.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I mean, we can start talking to these as they come in, maybe get some more content and context too. So, John, it looks like mobility and planning and scheduling are 2 areas where folks have identified some challenges. So maybe let's focus on planning and scheduling, seeing as that's starting to get a little more uptick here. Maybe talk a little bit about where JFC and how we focus on working with organizations on their planning and scheduling needs.
Sure. So when we engage with our clients, we kind of do an assessment where they are, where they want to go, and then lay out a plan. And many times this is including the work and management and scheduling and planning. But we need to know if they're ready to that. We typically don't engage with customers or clients that aren't ready for a solution. So we take the aspect that you need to walk where before you can run. So if you can't manage work orders without a planning and scheduling tool, you're probably not going to do very well with a very comprehensive tool going forward. That being said, we like to think that all of our clients are on an asset management journey, that they can walk before they can run. And if planning and scheduling meets your need at the time, we look forward to working with you, and we have. We look at IBM has scheduling tools. There's some third-party scheduling tools out there. We look to see what best fits your needs, and then we'll incorporate those needs back into the solution and recommendation that we have for you. Planning and scheduling done right can lower the cost to do work tremendously. It also allows the engineering managers and operations professionals to have a better handle on what's coming down the road so they can plan better accordingly. John, if you want to jump in.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I focus on when I work with our clients in this space is whose job is planning and scheduling. And, you get a lot of different answers, but really the answer is it's everyone's job when it comes down to effective planning and scheduling. If you don't have the parts and materials you need to get a work order properly planned, if you don't have the information or data in Maximo to support your planning needs, those are some of those fundamental process components that we tend to take a look at pretty deeply. To your point, we don't want to implement a solution if we don't have the process well defined and understand the roles that are there. We rolled out a visual scheduler planning tool for the state of California, large facility management operation, 220 facilities across the state of California. They had no planning and scheduling tools. It was very difficult to identify who had what work, when it was going to happen. So we implemented a simple solution for them. And they don't have actual planners and schedulers. They have folks that are chief engineers that manage the buildings and need to distribute and assign work. And this tool really enabled them to more efficiently get their staff scheduled and planned. So like John said, is, being able to walk before you run. Those are important components there. So, and the other one here, John, that seemed to get some good vote is mobility, right? So maybe talk a little bit about, organizations' journey from paper to mobile and where we tend to focus as an organization in assisting them there.
Yeah. So I'd like to think we've been leaders in this area. That way back when, I remember working with a mobile vendor that was working with these old clunky hardware devices that literally no maintenance guy would ever want to walk around with all day with. Over the years, the hardware has gotten much better. So we take the approach that why not mobile first? Put the device in the hands of actual people that are doing the work. Give them the tools to report it, take pictures, give them ownership of the system that they're expected to use on a day-to-day basis, and let them use it out in the field where it's practical. Don't make them come back to the office to do paperwork, which they hate doing. Let them process work with few user clips and interactions as possible to help streamline their business. And at the same time, have the ability to push some of that work out to them so you're not wasting their precious time going back to the office to collect paperwork and things like that. So we still see many opportunities in terms of mobility, being able to not only to connect to Maximo, but potentially connect to IoT devices and information. So that facility manager or operation manager, or even general manager, certain stakeholders can actually use their mobile device and really get the temperature of the facility, or what's happening, what's critical, what's going on, with at their fingertips, whether they're at a meeting, traveling, or on vacation. They can simply look on their mobile device and understand how well their facility is operating. Again, John, if you want to add to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think anytime an organization's trying to make that transition, mobility's been a part of facilities management space for many, many, many years. And organizations that tend to be successful in adoption of mobility recognize that they can't continue to do it the way they've always been doing it. And the focal point that I tend to really hammer home is training, right? Training is such a critical part of this. Obviously, we talk about setting up your platform and devices to support your business processes and all those things that go into rolling out a mobile platform. But simple things, right? Such as, do you allow your technicians to take their device home with them? Do you allow them to use that device for other things besides just the work order type functions and asset management functions they need to do? And really start to design and develop a discussion around what needs to be done within training, because everyone learns differently. They're visual learners, people who hear things better, people that actually need to put their hands on it and touch it. And really, I try to focus we try to focus organizations understanding that you're asking people who have never done this before to do something very different that they're not used to, and to split out the exposure to the mobile device from the mobile work and asset management function. So what I mean by that is, working towards getting familiarity and comfort with the actual physical device. So prior to showing up for training day for the mobile rollout, they've actually had the device in their hands. They're comfortable with using it in general. The younger populations generally don't have as much trouble, but understanding that you need to have your entirety of your workforce trained properly, and then start introducing the use of the product or tool, whatever the mobile platform is, and how they're going to do their work. So those are two things that we tend to have our organizations focus on. And then the last part within training is, the class sizes, keeping the size of the classroom small, right? 6 to 10 people is what we generally focus on. Anytime you start getting more than that in a room, there's a lot of folks who will get stuck and feel uncomfortable bringing up issues that they have. And then identifying the people that are in that group who are your champions, right? So understanding where people are in a position to help their coworkers and their staff that they work with on a daily basis. Those are things that we try to identify those people early on, and really get them engaged and involved in that process. So that's really, it's become a very important tenet for us as we roll mobile out to different customers we work with. And we've seen the adoptions are much quicker when folks are actually engaged early. They have some input on the device selection. They're trained on the device itself first, and then they work towards the tool itself, right? And recognizing and teaching that a mobile device is just a tool as any other tool in your tool bag. To look at it as, as John said, let's get the information down to that technician that they need to do their job. All right, so moving on to our next poll question here. What do you wish Maximo could do for you other than everything and make it a lot easier? So we have the topics here: improve decision-making, less data entry burden on the technicians, better improve plant or facility efficiency, produce better quality data, and remote equipment monitoring. So it seems that right now, it looks like we have the leader in the clubhouse here is better improve plant or facility efficiency. So John, I want you to talk a little bit about project we did for an operations center where we created a custom application within Maximo to support their daily shift operation. I think that would be a good thing to talk about for efficiencies in that area. So if you want to talk a little bit about that, that'd be great.
Sure. So we had a client that came to us and said, John, in operations management, we've got a dozen logbooks that we're tracking everything that happens on our site 24/7. and we'd like to see if there's some opportunities in terms of asset management, and particularly Maximo. So in this case, we looked at the logbooks, paper logs, and recognized that many of the entries in the logbooks were definitely asset related in terms of operation maintenance of the assets and when the work was done, the planning and scheduling, but also related to safety of the asset. And also by collecting that information, they compiled a daily report that was distributed amongst the organization, even outside the higher organization, to higher level stakeholders to get a good idea of what happened over the course of the day. So we looked at it and said, yep, it's very related to Maximo because there's asset information in there, there's operation information there, there's information concerning service aspects of the operation. But much of that information was in logbooks. Some of the information got put into Maximo for work orders, while at the same time, we recognized that the operations folks were struggling with the maintenance folks. It was one of them, he said, she said types of issues where neither organization was really working together properly. But in this case, there wasn't really a defined separation of duties, like who was responsible for putting an asset into operation after repair, who is responsible for taking that asset out of operation and putting it into maintenance and repair, and so forth and so on. And then how do we track it? So we came up with a solution called Daily Shift, where really, in essence, it takes place of operators' logs and combines all this information into an application inside Maximo. So just think about an operating log where you track and create a new record for each shift. So it could be a 4 or 8 hour shift. You create that new log, but within that log, you can create new service requests. You can create work orders that are related to the service request. You can also create incidents that are created to service request. But the log basically can compile all that information into one record over the course of that 8 hour period. And then within that log, we can track weather. We have communication templates built. So if there's some outbound messaging that needs to be done, we can send that messaging via communication templates through email or through SMS messaging to the stakeholders. Again, at the same time, compiling all this information into Maximo. So a couple of use cases that we focus in on were really like, well, what happens every day? And why do you want to track this? And why is it important to the stakeholders? So one thing is like with Maximo in the cloud, it's not transparent to everybody. You need to have a license to get at that information. And if you don't have a license, you're going to have to expect to get that information maybe once a day, or really not whenever you need it or want it. So we included all this functionality in the application that the stakeholders on the operation side could simply take a snapshot of operation and immediately send messages out to some of the stakeholders that were important to critical nature of their operation, and without giving their name, I can say that a vehicle came out of service, or there was the police department had a critical need or had to attend somebody immediately. We wanted to let everybody know what was going. So this really allowed transparency across the organization from operations perspective, engineering, and it also gave the higher level stakeholders knowledge of what is happening on a more detailed level, but at the same time, they had reports that were distributed daily that would show high level aspects of that information using automation. You know, before it was all paper logs that were transposed into a Excel spreadsheet, and then ultimately into Word documents that created a PDF and then distributed. And that would typically take over an hour or so for each shift to do that. And now with this application, the reports are automated, and when the shift is closed, Maximo can automatically send out that shift report to the stakeholders without any interaction. So there were efficiencies in terms of data quality, streamlining the transition from paper-based methods over to Maximo. But at the same time, we built some rules in there basically that said, no, the maintenance folks are the ones that decide that that particular asset is ready for operations, not the other way around. And so it really defines some of the lines and cores of how we do business. So it was a good application. We've used it at a couple sites. We've changed like the asset classes from, in that case, it was vehicles for trains. And now we've used it in facilities to track critical assets for elevators and escalators. So we can visually see the status of those assets on a screen within Maximo, rather than having to go outside of Maximo to get that.
Yeah, that's great. And, having been a part of that project and seeing the efficiencies that were gained, from data quality straight through notifications, shorter times between people being alerted of issues, of potential problems, it's definitely an efficiency. I think one of the other things that we focus on in terms of, developing our solutions in this area is, really the focal point of, working on trying to create a single system of engagement, right? So many times organizations will be working in a lot of different applications or platforms, whether it's through integrations or through sunsetting other applications to better support the process. I think IBM's done a great job with the service request portal now for the work centers, are starting to get more efficient, capturing and identifying information from people who have problems in your facilities more efficiently. That's going to allow the turnaround time to be better relative to responding and mitigating or resolving a problem. One of the other, everything else got one vote here, but I think one of the things that maybe we could talk a little bit about remote equipment monitoring. Maybe, John, if you want to talk a little bit about how we've developed our Connect solution to monitor equipment out in the field and how we integrate that back to Maximo, that might be worth talking about some more.
Sure. So one of the aspects of Maximo is you'd like to have it do everything, but it doesn't do everything. So JFC recognized that a long time ago and recognized that with an enabling technology, we have the ability to do more with Maximo, essentially make that toolbox have some different tool sets in it. So with the most recent reduction in costs for IoT and devices and sensors, and the availability has grown, we've looked forward to taking advantage of that. So we've developed a platform to connect to many different sensor types and gather the data across hundreds of different asset class types, and compile that data and distribute that data accordingly, whether it's into Maximo or other systems. So we're able to take advantage of the technology, leveraging Maximo from service operations management, work management, asset management to collect this information and then act when we need to. And we see right now we're really at the forefront of this type of technology, and we really think that this is going to be more or less the future going forward, is leveraging this technology at client sites with their assets, letting them have, just like we said, mobility, let them have that information at their fingertips like never before, so they can get real-time information about how their assets are running, not necessarily from a work order perspective, but really more an asset health perspective to really say, yep, this asset's running great, or this group of assets is running great. Or, we built some rules inside our tool that can combine different artificial intelligent logistics rules around it. So, if that door is open and the refrigerator is off, well, that's okay. But if the refrigerator freezer is on and the expectation is the door is opening, you're loading new food, well, that's okay too. But if you're not loading food, refrigerator is on, there's food in there, and the door is open, the temperature is dropping, that's not okay. So with some of these IoT devices, we can incorporate that into your operation management tools, but also your asset management tool set to do predictive maintenance, condition-based monitoring, to actually improve the efficiency of your plant and really have your uptime increased. So I think that's really going to be one of the key transitions to make everybody's plants or sites more efficient, is really leveraging Maximo, but leveraging the tools that can work with Maximo going forward.
Yeah, and it's having implemented it now at a couple different places, I think one of the key strong points that I like to express to folks about IoT and remote monitoring and things like that is that really the solution provides you the ability to take multiple sensors and perform the necessary if this then that type scenarios, and based on a set of conditions, create a work order, create a service request, enter a meter reading, those types of things. And I think where Maximo's focus right now is within condition monitoring a single meter point. Obviously within the facility space, we understand that, just because the temperature is high doesn't mean that's cause for alarm, or temperature is too low, it's a cause for alarm. But if the temperature is too low and there's water present, that may be the condition we need to create those work orders. So I think, we talked a little bit about the changing landscape with COVID and remote working. Obviously, facilities folks are always going to be engaged and involved, but if there's opportunities and efficiencies to monitor your locations and not have folks as engaged as boots on the ground in some of these spaces, it's always a good thing. Areas that I focus on in terms of opportunities within IoT is, monitoring of spaces, potentially in a university setting where you have vivariums, or you have radioactive spaces where there are labs that are doing experiments that you may need to monitor the CFM output on a fume hood, and you really can't be in that space to do that. Sure, building automation systems are good, but we all know that building automation systems, when they're set up, there may be 5 different providers on a campus, and being able to integrate all that data to Maximo and integrate 5 different systems is always a challenge. So I think that's some of the things there can focus on as well. So we're getting kind of close towards the end of our time here. If you had any questions, you could post them into the Q&A section. I'll give you a second to do that. If for whatever reason, if you have a question, you want to raise your hand, you can certainly do that, and I can unmute you and have you ask the question. I'll give you a minute to figure out the buttons on the screen here, but if we don't have any other questions, I'll have John close things out here. I think you hit all the points, John. Everyone is question free, it looks like right now. Okay, so John, if you want to just kind of close things out for us, and appreciate your time from my perspective, but John, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, John, and thanks everyone. Really appreciate the time you spent during your workday today. I know every minute is valuable to you. We hope that you learned some things here, but want to let you know that JFC has been very fortunate to work the last 20 years in asset management, particularly Maximo, and we really look forward to working in the next 20 years in Maximo and asset management and going for the ride. Want want to make sure everybody stays safe and healthy, and have a good day today. Thank you very much.